With that question, yeah.
So what I'm looking for is just ultimately the whole history and evolution of Esalen massage. So you're my first interview. We can just go with, you could start with your history, when you came to Esalen, and when you became involved with the massage group, which I don't even know if that existed when you came.
No, it didn't.
So you could just start with when you came and maybe what Esalen, give a little bit about the context of what Esalen was at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we have time, we can go into the beginnings of the massage group, how that started.
Okay, so this is just kind of a preliminary dump of my mind, and it's like, I want to start with a witticism about the 60s, which is that if you remember the 60s, you weren't there. So trying to recapture all of these ideas and thought experiences is just like picking raisins out of pudding. So, and there's a lot that's important about the pudding too. And I'd like to say something about that I came to Esalen the first time in '62 when it first started, and spent some 6 weeks here in the summer of '62. And there were maybe 6 or 8 people here. This is late beat, early acid.
By 6 or 7 people, you mean 6 or 7 employees?
Yeah, 6 or 7 people. Dick Price and Joffrey Flung and 3 or 4 other people. Erica Weston. And Dick, I later learned some of this, but I was part of the San Francisco late beat renaissance and going to art school there at San Francisco Art Institute and living with an anthropology and linguistics student at San Francisco State. And I was all involved in all the protest movements at that time too. And at that time, pudding, or the context of all of this, is that we were a generation that was looking for new ways to experience ourselves. And one of the holy grails was LSD, expanded consciousness, was a very important part of that. And at that time, people were beginning to explore nonverbal realms of consciousness, intellectual or discourse kinds of awareness, but what is it to go beyond the kind of European paradigm of awareness in your field of awareness? So I came out of a whole field, and I think Esalen came out of that too, of experimentation with lifestyles. And a major part of that was yoga, meditation, and body work, or body-mind kinds of things. What could that mean to have a body-mind practice? So one of the inspirations for Esalen was Aldous Huxley's essay on the human potentials. And he called for this in the late 50s, that he called for a school for examining the human potentialities, and that gave an inspiration to Dick and Michael, and a big push from the kind of, I guess, creative lifestyles of the beat people. Dick was clearly a part of the beat generation and their goals of exploring a more extensive consciousness. Now into this mix comes a whole new form of therapy, humanistic therapy. So we were also involved with here all kinds of encounter groups and psychodynamic processes. It got all mixed up in this. So then Reich's work came to the foreground, and like I came back here in the 60s, 66, and I came here from Synanon after 2 years of group dynamics into this atmosphere of a 3-ring circus of all kinds of body-mind practices, from yoga to bioenergetics to like the beginning experiments of massage, working with the body, essentially, especially Charlotte Selvers's work, the Gindler work from Germany. So all of this comes into this big mix that by as far as I can tell you, the history of it is that Bernie Gunther from Los Angeles was a yoga student and was giving massages, and it started to come up here in about 63, 64, and began to study with Charlotte Selver around 65 and 66, and then began to do his workshops and to integrate some of her principles of bare attention, or paying close attention when you touch someone, to the effects of the touch on yourself and on others, to develop a kind of a deeper presence. And her work was about that. It was a kind of Western Zen.
Oh, was Charlotte doing hands-on body work then?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Her tradition comes out of Germany at the turn of the century, and since later in my life I've spent a lot of time in Europe and in Germany tracing the roots of her work, which is possibly another tape. But it comes out of a tradition in Europe at the turn of the 20th century, where a whole host of new ways of expressing oneself with the body became very prominent. And it was a kind of burst of what is called a neo-romanticism, of looking for a kind of freedom from old ways of being with your body. So nudism, vegetarianism, sunbathing, a freer sexuality, doing different things with diet and massage and dance. And the key to all of this was, I guess I saw a book title that seemed to express it, The Cult of Spontaneity. That we were on the search for what is spontaneity.
And so was Charlotte Selver doing this work in Germany? Did she come from Germany?
Yes, she came from Germany. She recently died at 102 and started studying this work, I think in the late 20s, early 30s in Berlin. And she was an expressive dance movement teacher. All of this work, body work, movement, dance therapy, family systems, constructions, and all of this comes out of a kind of a dance therapy that blended itself into the therapeutic world in Germany in the 30s. But that 30s thing was psychoanalysis and analytics with the body, with Reich. But before that was a whole movement in Germany of the healthy body. What was a healthy body? And Esalen, in fact, there was a pre-Esalen in southern Switzerland from 1890 to about 1910 called Monte Veritas at Ascona, Switzerland, on Lago Maggiore. And when we talk about this roots of Esalen, we have to go back to Germany at the turn of the century, where all of these practices that we're doing here, Fitzgerald's is German, and many of the early psychologist influences on Esalen, a good portion of them are German exiles, Fitzgerald's and so on. So back to the massage. So Charlotte's work, I'm doing an interview.
Well, he was supposed to be the cameraman.
Oh, you're going to be a cameraman, okay.
I'm on time. You guys are early.
So
is it rolling, Bob?
I think it's rolling, and you can do in and outs. We've just been doing unstable.
That's for the most part.
Yeah.
Looks good. Continue, please.
So I'm laying a little background into this that's like...
So one question was when... So Charlotte was here in 62, 63?
No, she wasn't here until... Wait, I'm not sure. She was probably here in 63 or 64, or 62, I'm not sure. You have to look in the catalogs. But she gave the first so-called experiential workshop here. And her work is not a discussion or a lecture, but exploring what happens when you lift a person's leg. And what happens if your leg is being lifted and there's someone putting their hands on your breathing, so you can begin to sense what happens to you all through you when someone lifts your leg. And it's a kind of work at exploring the most finely detailed sensory phenomena to develop a kind of a inner quiet and concentration that you can feel how your body reacts to everything that's happening.
Now, is this orientated towards both the practitioner and
Yes.
the client?
Yes. So, in working with other people, you start to have, she gives us instructions in how to tune in and how to begin to explore that when I touch you, that I have to wait for a full response in myself. And always before, I think, in being touched and doing massage, it was kind of like rub the person. And that was what she brought into the Esalen massage, was this sense of that when you're working, pay close attention to being very present with them, feeling their response to you, and feeling your response to them. So this became a way of like teaching Bernie Gunther. He studied with her before I did, and developed this kind of attitude of deep presence, paying close attention to what's happening, so that your connection is deeper when you're doing this. So he taught Molly Day, and Molly Day was my teacher, and then I taught classes and massage classes here, beginning I think in 67, something like that, 68.
So Bernie was coming here and he was taking classes with Charlotte here.
Yeah.
Now, was he also working here at the time, doing massage?
He was coming back and forth. He was like a bridge person at Esalen. There's a book that he put out in the 60s that made a big splash in the U.S. Called Sensory Awakening. Wonderful pictures of doing Charlotte Selver's sensory experiments with a fine photographer doing it. And it helped put Esalen on the map. And Bernie was experimenting with, like, taking what he'd learned from Charlotte into other things, and he took it into massage. His background, or his way of weaving his practices of what I want to get back to, of body work, of body-mind practices at Esalen that have to do with awakening that other part that was forgotten in the culture. That we have a body. And that's the pioneering thing that Esalen did, was really make it clear to everyone that we have a body.
Okay. One thing I was trying to get at with when Bernie was working here was when the actual, just as a chronological fact, when the massage began. And where did that, was that not so much of an event as just something that kind of grew organically as Bernie started working here and then other people joined him? Or was there an element of, hey, let's form a massage crew?
No, in the beginning it wasn't that at all. It was more like, I think Bernie probably started, you'll have to find out from him, in 64, 65. I came here in 66, I came back after being here in 60, through the years to live, in 66. And then I started working in the kitchen and studying all kinds of therapy with Fritz and different people, and different kinds of bioenergetics people. And then I started learning massage, and I was a baker. So baking and rolling bread out was very much like massaging. And I paid for my tuitions to different classes by doing massages. And my teacher, Molly Day, was doing some massages. We were just like let's say there is a team of people here of about 20 people.
Doing massage?
No.
No.
Of those 3 maybe doing massage.
And was Esalen operating as a business at this time? I mean,
Yeah.
people were coming to do
Yeah.
That started
To
right
do
off
workshops.
in 1962. I mean,
Yeah.
that was the opening. Was when that
Right.
started happening.
Right. I think Alan Watts gave the first workshops in 62, and they were weekend lectures. And then it slowly built up. I wasn't here from 62 to 66 a lot. I was in and out a lot. My life was in San Francisco at that time, mostly. But the massage crew sort of developed out of this. Like, I remember in 67, I'm studying group dynamics and Gestalt therapy and family therapy and body-mind work and bioenergetics and Charlotte Selver's work. It's like I'm studying a whole lot of things with some important pioneers, and they all fit together. Now, the way I supported myself at that time was giving massages here and in San Francisco.
Excuse me, let me make an edit here.
Yeah.
Did you do a sound check?
No.
No.
Okay, maybe we should do that before we go any further,
Okay.
because a big part of this is going to be audio, and I just want to make sure we've got it,
Okay.
so that your time, because it's going really well, by the way. It's really good.
Well, good. I was running a little thin on
Good.
Yeah.
Because
That
I'm
was
going to be
good.
watching this.
Mhm.
I really don't care about the
Yeah.
video as a movie for somebody to watch.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to get information.
No, but
and-
I think that sequence was important, what you were talking about, that
Yeah.
there was a convergence.
Yeah, there's a
Somewhere
convergence.
between 63 and 65. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think your memory joggles my memory. That I think that Bernie was back and forth from. He was barely here when I was here in 66. In 65, when I wasn't here, he was here a lot. But by 66, he was between LA and here. And I think that was around 65 that Bernie introduced Fritz to Ida, and Ida worked on him then.
Yeah.
Now, at that time that I was here, see, there was like a King of the Mountain battle between these titans. Fritz Perls, Virginia Satir, Charlotte, just incredible turf battles. Bill Schutz about who had King of the Mountain, who had the best technique.
In
So
terms of, we're all still focused on body work here. All these.
This is body-mind work.
Okay,
Fritz's
body-mind,
work
right.
is body-mind work.
Okay.
Very centrally influenced by
Right.
Charlotte Selver's school of study in Germany. So you're right. This is all very important, and we can come back to that. So to come to the massage crew. So when I was here in 66, 67, then I started getting interested in massage because it was an entree into sexuality. I mean, we were also incredibly, I say now, the first and last generation to practice and be able to be unrepressed sexually. And we did it here. We did it for several years of exploring ways of awakening our body, awakening our erotic sensuality, and it was a central part of our lives, which in conservative times now, people can have barely any idea of the kind of expansion that gave to us to, we're not only working with expanded consciousness from verbal therapy or verbal talk to taking LSD and experiencing all those realms, but we're also exploring what it's like to touch someone sensually and be able to arouse our whole body, which was a central tenet of the bioenergetics world. And it's a central tenet of Charlotte Selver's work, which is called the Gendler work in Germany, of waking up a repressed body-mind that the European culture had repressed. So part of this then comes to, I then studied with Molly Day, who came and went. I can't remember very much about those days. As I said in the beginning, there's such a swim of events and so many things were happening that it takes my breath away to try to remember a week of it. But and we're also examining everything we're doing in group dynamics. We're all in group dynamics all the time, examining everything we did. So and the baths then turn into this sensual, erotic playground that the massage becomes a part of everyone's learning to be skilled at touching each other. And then it's sort of, then I started giving massages, Molly was giving massages, and I gave some catalog groups. And Peggy, who are now, I would say Peggy and Rita and Vicky Top were the progenitors of the massage crew. And they were all students of mine. And then they went from me to Storm Acciola, and wove a kind of a thing. And the whole nucleus of the massage crew, I think, came from their impetus to refine the massage. Because I was off onto other things. I started studying golfing. I was much more interested in Gestalt and family systems therapy and dynamic team therapy and so on, that included my knowledge of the massage. Massage gave me a fundamental awareness of how to approach people psychologically and how to move in slowly and carefully and watch body reactions and then how to respond to that so the person could become comfortable with deep awareness, deeper awareness of themselves. So what begins to happen here is that there are all these psychodynamic schools of work, primarily Reichian, but also yoga, different yogic practices, different meditation practices. All of this kind of converged on Esalen and made this huge fucking stew pot. Like in my reading of the 1920s, 1930s Paris for the artists, the expressionist artist world, that we here perform expressionist living. And we were direct inheritors of the cult of spontaneity in Europe, of expressionism. Fritz Perls, really the most calculated and schooled. He was a very, very sophisticated man, Fritz Perls. And I don't know what he thought about us raw colonists over here very much. He was really scornful of our ignorance a lot. But he was really the king baboon here, and rightfully so.
Do you think Fritz, knowing that he had a short fuse, a little left to live, made him even more present with what he had to do?
It's hard to know. I think he was always a pretty, quick-tempered fellow, and quick to not suffer fools, or he was sadistic in ways, and also brilliant.
Did you say that Fritz's work had an influence on Esalen massage?
Well, it had to, because here's what happened: as Bernie was studying with Fritz, took Fritz's experience of like how you tune a person into their awareness in their body. What happens? They start feeling feelings. That's where your feelings are, in your body. And so suddenly when we're doing massages, it turns into a therapy session, a cathartic therapy session. Well, no one was prepared for these kinds of things.
Well, I'm imagining there was a lot more of that back then in that day than what I'm seeing today.
There was. There was. People expected to do that.
And I'm also getting the idea, tell me if I'm right, that in the beginning days before Peggy and Vicky and Rita and this massage crew. It was more like massage was just another way to learn and develop myself.
Mm-hmm.
And well, it turns out that by doing that, I have these skills that these people are paying me money for, and I need to support myself, so I'll do some massage on them. But that was not it wasn't like going to massage school today to develop a new career.
Yeah.
You guys were learning about yourselves and developing your own personal practices, and body work was just a
That's a good question, Tom. How did fee for service come into being? How did fee for service then come into being?
Well, go on with your point, because that's...
Well, that's just it, that the orientation was not around developing something to necessarily do for a living or make for a living. That was about, but the orientation was the very origins of Esalen massage comes from self-examination and self-development. How can I further, those things you were talking about?
Right.
The idea of it becoming a business was down the road.
Yeah.
That got laid out as a viable economic process later on.
Because you have to realize that we came out of the hippie ethos of trade, exchange, and that it was also, we were always encountering each other. We were always using a stall on each other. We were always touching each other and trading massages.
Well, and it comes back for me to one of the fundamental
as
things.
As a fundamental way of express ourselves.
One of the fundamental things we teach in Esalen massage workshops today is that Esalen massage is not about me fixing you. It's not this thing that I do to you.
Right.
Which is, I think, real common in other forms of massage.
Right.
It's a thing that I do to you. Swedish massage is something I do to you. And so...
That comes out of the Charlotte work, too. That her work was very much give up ambitions when you're working with someone. And that was woven in with Bernie and then to Molly Day and then to me. Bernie and I studied extensively with Charlotte. And that's an important part of it too, is that being present with a person is really a unique thing.
And it changes things.
Yeah, it changes
just
things
the
dramatically of not wanting to manipulate. Because people can feel if they're being manipulated and won't let themselves go into those deeper levels of awareness that happen in the Esalen massage. Because essentially Esalen massage, or Charlotte's work, is, I later find out, a way of going into a trance. It's a way of going into what a hypnotic world would call a trance state. We were, sanctifying it, calling it expanded consciousness, but it is a form of delightful experience that Charlotte's work taught us to quiet, slow down, and be in tune, and pretty soon you feel your organism's ability to recover and rebalance happen. If you're quiet enough, if you're still enough. But if you're the Swedish massage style or quick movement kinds of things, your deeper pulses can't feel that. You can't connect with that. So if I touch you like this and move you like this, you don't even have time to react in your deeper core. But if I start tuning in like this and feeling, what have I done to startle you? And feel with that rough touch. You had to go like that, right? So if I'm touching you like this, and letting you get a chance to feel that I'm here without threat. And those kinds of things are then translated to, like, that I began to feel like, oh my God, if I don't slow down, people don't really get into their deeper pulses.
And were you doing body work of any kind before you came to Esalen?
No.
No. Bernie was. What kind of... Well, I'm actually going to try and interview Bernie, so I'll ask him about his history.
Yeah. No, but I come out of a family of chiropractors. My grandfather and two of my uncles, my mother's father and two uncles, were naturopathic chiropractors. And also nudists, and part of this 1920s, 1930s nudism and the sun, and your body is a glorious thing. And I grew up within a nudist culture, and I've never had any shame about my body. Only when I got older and fat. But I mean, in the sense that when I was a child, we would go to the family Sunday dinner, and all of us cousins would lay on the floor before dinner, and our uncles and our grandfather would come around and pull our legs and see if our legs were in balance, or do some snaps to our vertebrae and all on. And I was an athlete too, a swimmer and a boxer, and so that's another point I wanted to bring in here, that Esalen also, our body work became kind of a sport. Dick was a college and high school wrestler. I did gymnastics, wrestling, and so on. Rolfing, touching, moving. It was contact sport. And I still feel that way today, that when I'm working, I have a half sport coach model, and that we're playing an athletic game here. To engage the whole being, you have to engage them in their motoric world. Motoric world and sensory world. So maybe you ask a couple more questions, and I think that's enough for tonight, huh?
It is. I'd like to know if, so you've cited Charlotte Selver as one of the main influences of your work. Bernie was your teacher. Is there any?
No, Bernie wasn't my teacher.
Oh, he wasn't?
No. Bernie taught Molly Day, and Molly Day taught me.
Okay. Is there
I
anybody
never
else?
took a class with him.
Anybody, any other, maybe you could describe your work, if there's any more to say about it. So maybe that is all. Maybe we've covered that.
Well, that would be another tape about, like, if we're trying to focus on the massage, that's just one finger on the hand of things that, like you say, that I was involved with, because I was into the learning of massage. Left open all kinds of questions about what happens when people cathart when I massage with them, and all the psychodynamic issues.
Right. Well, and it is a little bit of an elusive thing, like even defining Esalen massage.
Mm-hmm.
To give it a clear definition is an elusive thing. So I guess I'm searching for an elusive thing, which is like, I hear that different people influenced Esalen massage. It could be Fritz Perls, Alan Watts, Charlotte Selver. Well, I want to know exactly how, and I want partly just people's personal experiences of how their work was affected. So
my work, I could answer something of that. Is like that when I started doing my work, I added more of a kind of a gymnast movements into it. I started to do long strokes with like stretches that went over the whole body. I got really active when I was doing it, so that it became a kind of a workout for me also, a yogic form of contact with them, a dance, sensing a dance rhythm to it.
And was this influenced by somebody that you were working with, or was this your own creativity? Because creativity is another thing that I see. I mean, I'm always comparing, like today in the 1990s and year 2000, how Esalen is teaching and how schools out in the world are teaching. And I think one of the things that Esalen offers is more room for creativity and self-expression in the massage.
Well, I guess I have to answer it in the sense that I think I was exploring a sensory, sensual, erotic contact that was half lovemaking, that was touching the edge of an eroticism, but not going over that boundary, although we did a lot then. But there was a sense that this is an exchange that is not devoid of deep presence, but also a kind of sensual following the flow of the body in a certain way that I think, I don't know if I brought that to it. Molly Davis certainly had that when I was learning from her, an incredibly lovely sense of rhythm in her dance-like approach to doing the work. And then I carried that out into a more like Cece, where my work was really also quite physical as well as sensual, but quiet, really deep quiet.
You know, I think the idea of this movement is an important aspect of Esalen massage too, because again, I go out into the world and I get a massage, and usually they do all the work on one leg, all the work on one arm, all the work on the back, all the work on one arm. It's like somehow it's kind of a box-like thing. Whereas I found in Esalen massage, people move around more, so that any given area gets worked on 3 or 4 times and gets connected in my experience to different parts of the body. Because maybe the first time when they went from this leg to this arm, but maybe the next time they went from that leg to that arm.
Yeah.
So I'm getting the idea this was part of what you were.
Yeah, I was weaving. The natural contours of the body led me to kind of flowing patterns like that, where I was going over the body and coming back and just being quiet for a time and then spontaneously going off. And the basic form of it, I mean, when I first started off to do massage, it was kind of a bumbling into like, oh, this is an erotic plaything. And then learning that, oh my God, I don't know how to cover the contour of a human body. I don't know how to go from A to B or to string melodies together. And then I began to learn it from Molly. Then I know that I didn't do massage for a while and I forgot it all. And then I, 3 months later, took another class and then went on to start really doing it, making money from it, and building a kind of rhythm into it that I would say I was a male version of Molly Day, and that I had my own way of doing it, but the basic rhythm and form I got from her. And my sense is that she got a lot from Bernie. She never studied with Charlotte, but yeah. So, and I think she's dead. I don't know. We don't know if she's alive or not. Molly Day Shackman.
Right. So, but when you were working here, I'm hearing there was you, there was Bernie, Molly.
But Bernie wasn't doing massage. Molly and I and
was Dick Horan around at that time?
No, he was later.
Right.
He was around at that time, but probably, I would say Dick Horan probably started doing massage he was the yogi 67, 68, something like that. This is all mixed up. I don't know.
Well, it's a start.
67, 68, 69, all of this is happening.
Because
69, I started studying with Ida, doing Rolfing.
Well, so we'll have another tape.
Okay.
And one of the things I'll do is keep watching this tape and come up with
more
questions and get a little more organized.
Great.
That's about 38 minutes.
Well, you know, that's a start.
Yeah, I feel good. That's
and
good.
I get to see where and like I say, you know, I will